there, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be ranking my most recent eyeshadow palette purchases from favorite to least favorite, worst to best, whatever you want to say. And I think I've got 6 here to look at, so this will be fun. If you're interested in seeing that, then don't go anywhere. And if you're new to my channel, hello, welcome. My name is Rachel. I'm a homeschooling stay-at-home mom, and I love to play with colorful eyeshadow. This eyeshadow look was filmed, and I can link it down below for you. And if you would like to see lots more colorful content on your timeline, then you might want to consider liking and subscribing, because currently I'm uploading 3 videos a week. Alright, so I'm going to scooch to the side a little bit here, and I'll show you the palettes as I go through them. Now, the way that I chose these palettes was anything that I did not order for Christmas gifts. Like last Good Friday, I bought a bunch of eyeshadow palettes. They were all my Christmas gifts. I played with all of them in like January, February. So these 6 palettes have been new arrivals in my collection since those Christmas Black Friday purchases. Definitely February to where we are now. That's what we're going to talk about today. So the last one on the list, number 6, is going to be the Love Notes palette from Beautybay. Now, my problem with this palette is not the formula. Honestly, it's the standard Beautybay formula that I was expecting. If I can open the thing. It is the formula that I was expecting. It has performed just like my other Beautybay palettes. My only qualm with this palette is the redundancy of the shade selection. There are a lot in this palette that are not really necessary. This whole row here, this like, I don't know, trio here, and then this one, and then these up here. We could have edited this down into like a 9 or 12 pan, and it would have pretty much had the same sort of impact. I like the shimmers. I mean, I do like the color selection. I think it's a nice palette for like pink and purples, and I like the variety within light, medium, and dark tones. All of that is good, and you have that within the shimmers as well as the mattes, which is super exciting. It's a nice palette. I just wish that some of these shades were not quite so similar. I think it would have benefited from a couple of more blue tone, like periwinkle tones, because that still would have worked within the pink and purple theme, but it would have made the palette a smidge more interesting. Again, it performs just like my other Beautybay palettes, so I recommend you start dark and work light, because these 3 deepest shades do not build very well on top of the other mattes. But if you know how to work with Beautybay, you get good results. And it's a nice palette. It's just, as of right now, it's one of the least exciting in my collection. I don't usually reach for it, although I do want to play with it and the Age of Opulence palette together and see what kind of looks I can get from that. So that's why it's on the bottom of the list. The next palette in the list is the Pinky Rose Exotic Peacock palette. Now, I might say that this palette is a bit of a regret. But I can't fully say that, because I'll be honest, I haven't used it a lot. I do need to play with it a little bit more before I could even fairly make that claim. One of the times I used it, I used these green and yellow tones, and then the other time I think I did like a blue and purple. So really I need to dip into some of the other shades to get a more well-rounded idea of how it performs. I really want to play with this one here. I would say that this palette ranked where it is because it doesn't have any light-toned mattes. The lightest color in this palette, really, well, I guess would be these 2 right here, and they're both shimmers. Because it doesn't have any light-toned mattes, you're either going to get a much darker look, you have medium to dark basically, or you're going to have to grab other palettes to work with these darker tones. When I say that it might be a palette regret for me, is because it has several darker toned blues and purples, and as much as I love darker toned blues and purples, if you've watched any of my last, I don't know, 10 videos, you'll know that I have to be careful with them on my skin tone because they make me look tired. So at this point in my journey, I'm getting smarter about not buying palettes that have a lot of dark toned blues and purples. For that reason, those shades don't tend to get used a lot. But this palette does have a nice variety of other brighter colors. I just need to grab another palette for more mid or lighter toned transitions. I do intend to play with it more. I won't say at this point that I regret it. I just need to give it more time, give it more chances. But that's why it's ranked lower in the pile today, because it just doesn't have any light toned mattes to work with. And then sort of along those same lines, we've got the Ace Beauté Paradise Fallen palette. This is the palette that I used for today's eye look, and I do really like today's eye look. If you watch today's video, you'll know why this palette is ranked where it is. The reason is that I love the color story. I like that it's not just purple. We've got grays and silvers, and this right here is like a smoky lavender sort of gray, or a dove gray with a hint of purple. It's really neat. And then over here we've got brown tones, and so it's not a monochromatic purple palette, which I like. I do like the color story a lot. Today's look revealed to me that this shimmer, and probably this one too, honestly, but I used this one, it doesn't have the impact that I want it to have. It's not as vibrant metallic that I would like. It's a little more subdued, a little more of an older fashioned kind of formula. Like, it didn't feel bright and vibrant and really poppy, you know what I mean? These lighter shimmers, I've used them and they're both quite nice, but it's these two darker shimmers that are just not as exciting as I wish that they would be. So that, along with the fact that this palette also doesn't have any lighter toned mattes, except for this one, this is really, depending on your skin tone, it could go more gray than lavender or lilac. So this is a nice matte, but I wish that the palette had more, more purpley matte, something that was a true lavender or lilac, something that was a true, maybe a baby pink or something that works with these other shades. It's a nice palette and I like it. And by the way, this is the new formulation. I do really like the color story and I like that it's all cool toned because a lot of purple palettes tend to be warm toned, but I wish that it had more lighter toned mattes and more impactful shimmers. The next palette at number 3 is the Oceanic palette, also from Ace Beauty. Now this is the older formula. I love this color story so much. It makes me swoon. It's too beautiful. I love that they get so many different colors within a basically 2-color palette. It's blue and it's green. But there are so many versions of blue-green. It's done so beautifully. We can go grungy, we can go springy, we can go oceanic, we can go deep, we can go light. This palette has a good balance of lighter toned mattes over here, then we've got mid-toned mattes here, and then dark toned mattes on the edges, and everything works together really nicely. My only complaint with this palette, and again, this is the old formula, my complaint with this palette is not that the dark mattes don't blend or build the way that I wanted, because the one time I've used this so far, I didn't really have much of an issue with that. The issue that I had with this palette was that the lighter toned shimmer and matte, these two shades right here, they weren't actually as opaque as I wanted them to be. They were very thin and kind of see-through. Like, you could see my lid underneath the shadow. I had to build and build and build a lot of the shadow to make it the color payoff that I wanted, and it surprised me, honestly, because I was expecting to have problems with the darker tones and I didn't. I had problems with this old formula with these lighter tones. So it's not enough for me to get rid of the palette. It's just something for me to be aware of, that, okay, maybe put a different color underneath, or maybe cut the area with concealer to brighten it and make it sticky and then place the color over top. Or, I think it's a beautiful palette and I don't dislike it enough that I'm gonna go spend $40 and get the new updated version. If I were to kill this palette, like use it all up, I would definitely rebuy it in the new formula. But that was really my only complaint so far with my use of this palette, was that these two shades, they didn't have the opacity that I really wanted them to have. The next palette in the list is also from Ace Beauty. This is the Flare palette. Yes, I bought 3 Ace Beauty palettes. It was one of the brands that I wanted to try in 2022, and I found all of these for, like, I don't know, about 70% off the retail when I used the secondhand Poshmark and Mercari sites. So anyway, this is the Flare palette. This is ranking in at number 2. I thought this palette was great. I've used it twice now, I think. I think I used it with another palette. I don't remember. I have looks on my channel for all these things. I thought that this palette performed surprisingly well, considering that this also is the old formula, and I was expecting to have some kind of problem. Again, I was expecting it to be in the darker mattes. I did not use any of these 3 dark mattes, so there might be problems with those that I just haven't found yet. I used more of these orangey fall colors, and I had no problems. I thought it performed really well. I thought the payoff was nice. The blending and the pigmentation were great, buildable, easy to work with, blended out nicely, worked well with each other. And then I thought that the shimmers were nice too. I haven't used this shimmer, but honestly, I think I've used all 3 of the other shimmers, like inner corner highlight, and then these 2 worked with the look. Again, I don't remember exactly. You can find the video if you're interested. It's on my channel in the last month or so, but I really like this palette. I adore the color scheme. It's very autumnal to me. It's very warm and just cozy, and makes me want to like find a sweater and a cup of tea and a good book and just cuddle up somewhere. But I expected to have more problems than I did, and I'm quite pleased to say that. And then my number 1 palette out of what I have tried recently is the, drumroll please, Melt Amor y Mariposas. This palette, who's surprised? Is anyone surprised by this? This palette is everything that is good and beautiful about eyeshadow. It is gorgeous. It's so pretty. I love the color story. I just think it's vibrant and captures your attention. I think that the formula is really good. It builds nicely, it blends nicely, you get good color payoff and pigmentation. I think they did a great job when it comes to color story and selection because it's varied and it's interesting, but there's enough to work with within each little color family. Like here we've got the purpley and red tones, and here we've got more peachy, orangey, brown, burgundy. And then up here we've got more yellow, neutral, and then up here we've got blue, green. My only complaint with this palette is these two shades right here. I think they're far too close and one of them should be something else. Perhaps more of a, I don't know. I would say one of these should be perhaps a more bluey toned green because these greens are all pretty green except for that one. Maybe a more blue toned matte green would work well with this shimmer. It would also work well with these purples, or a different tone of purple, a lighter toned purple. But this palette has a very nice variety. We've got light toned, light tones. This is a light tone. And then we've got some more medium tones. And then we've got several darkening out shades in different color families. And then we have shimmers, which are incredible. Amazing shimmers. And each shimmer can work with one of the color families. Both of these shimmers work with this row, but they'll also work with the greens, and they'll work with purples and the orange peaches. Then this shimmer right here, again, works nicely with the purples. It'll also look good with the peaches. It'll look good with these neutral colors. And you could even make this work with the greens. I mean, do I have to keep going? Can we just say that this palette is amazing? I have heard that Melt is kind of hit or miss. Like, they'll have a release that is amazing, and then they'll have another release that's not so great. But I've universally heard everyone say that this palette is awesome, and I was so excited when I saw this one listed on Poshmark. I never thought that I would have my hands on this palette because it's like $70, and I'm not in a position to pay $70 for an eyeshadow palette. But when I saw this listed for, I think, $30, I was all over it. I'm excited to have it. It is a beautiful palette, and it absolutely deserves its place in this ranking as #1. Please let me know in the comments below, do you have any of these palettes? What do you think of them, particularly if you have the Ace Beauté, because 3 out of my 6 most recent palettes are Ace Beauté, and I would love to know what you think of the formula. I had someone comment in one of my videos that they have the old formula and they have had no problems with it. So I'd like to know what other people think about the formulation, and if the new stuff is worth buying to replace the old, what your general thoughts are. Thank you for hanging out with me. I hope you liked this video. Remember to like and subscribe if you would like to see more. And until I see you again, I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye!